Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode, I have someone who is the owner of he's the CEO of ROI MediaWorks, sorry about that, and Chief Mindset Coach at MindsetMonk. VK Lakkinen, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you, VK. Pleasure to have you. And what is it? I know it's Krishna, isn't it? The K stands for Krishna.
Yeah.
What is it totally?
It's Venkata Ramakrishna, and just people call me with different names, right?
Yeah,
I think it's just the room you're in, right? Like if you're around some investors and in LA, it's kind of VK, and then your friends call you Krishna. But I think, it's just what is in the name, but it's all in the name at the same time.
Always the big question, isn't it? What's in a name, So that's really where, what it was like, really. Okay, so anyway, great. You have this fantastic mindset, and it's a great name, by the way, MindsetMonk. I've looked at some of your videos, your TED Talk. You're doing some great stuff out there. Obviously, also did a TED Talk on the poverty side, the children that are suffering, and obviously some mindset stuff and coaching, as coaching business. But you also got involved. You got yourself out of poverty and went into marketing, so started your own marketing business. So before we go into that, tell us about your life, and from when you was a little kid, and what happened there, and where did it all start to inspire the audience.
Dave, I hope there is a simple answer, but it's kind of an evolving story for all of us.
Yeah.
I grew up in India until I was 20, and then I moved to UK for my master's, and then got a job, and then, the career changed. But I think there are certain situations in my life that I faced, and these challenges and difficulties can be different for everybody. But I'm a firm believer now that they're all driving you towards success. It's creating those tenacity and, standing up for yourself and building that strength and perseverance at an early age. That those are the tools that you can definitely use later on in life or in a career. And I think going through a different set of challenges that are pretty unique for me really shaped who I am today. And I think it all falls down to it's the mindset at the end of the day that gives you that clarity. Like there are many other kids that probably went through very similar, poor situations and not having books or pencils, but I have a huge desire to have a granular, a spectacular lifestyle. But the thinking could have been, my life sucks. And I'm stuck here, and totally rebel against your own life. Or you can say, I'm grateful for what I have, but I know I can make it bigger and better. And I'm kind of progressively learning how can I get there. And I think the growth mindset aspect of everybody puts them in a different path and different limelight per se. And then when you look back, you can connect all these dots. And for the people that chose a different methods to find that success and whatnot, they have their own life too. But at the end of the day, their learning is different. The outcomes are different. Their perspective of life is different. And it's kind of pretty unique for everybody. And I'm a firm believer in ikigai, like, living that Japanese way of lifestyle, which is pretty close to some of the Hindu philosophies that I grew up in, and how do they overlap, and how do I really use to get here, being that spiritual person, being that lovable, kind, compassionate person to other people. So there are a lot of core values that acts as a foundation for everybody's success. And I think recognizing those and nurturing them and, building the blocks towards the future is where it makes a really huge difference. And I'm really fortunate. There were so many mentors throughout the years that came in my way. The divine universe has a way of showing these people and say, Krishna, you learned this lesson, but this is not over yet. So you got to start over again, right? So I'm very fortunate that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you speak about mentors. So, the path wasn't easy for you when you was got up to the age of 10, before you came to the UK to study. To tell us what that life was like. Obviously, I'm now my parents' background, obviously Caribbean and Mauritius, actually. So that's from Indian descent as well. So I know the kind of the culture, and it can be very tough.
Yeah, it is.
In India, I've been to India, as I've mentioned earlier, and there are. Being someone who's well traveled myself, I've seen some poverty, and there is some poverty in the UK as well, and I'm sure there is in the US where you are now. And but you've been there. Tell us what that was like. Was it life on the streets most of the time for you, or was it just mainly trying to just sort of make ends meet and living in a?
Yeah, pretty much like the make ends meet. Like, luckily my dad is a teacher. It's kind of make like, $2, $3 a month, or whatever that is those days. That wasn't just enough, like, to feed a family and having 3 kids. And it's different. Like, it's not worse, but it's also not great. It's just at that level, if you have like 1 pencil for your entire year. Right. And I love writing. I love like pens and reading books, and you can't afford them. So I used to sit with my senior classmates, and usually the leftover sheets, I used to scratch them out of their book and make my own notebooks for the next year, or borrow the books, borrow the clothes, like, from your cousins. It's a different lifestyle, but you also see this, Hollywood, Bollywood TV, and it's kind of like huge. Like, you see this, life can be better. I don't have to live from like $1 to $2 every month, and it can be possible to have an abundance and have unlimited supply of what you want. And at that time, like, it's all pointing me towards the money, right? It's like, if you have more money, you can do more things. But later on, I also realized that to have that money, you need to have something else to get you where you want to be. And that's where the mindset is. And you can make money in so many different ways, but growing up in such a way, not having certain things, but also have integrity and truthfulness around how you live your life honestly and facing that truth. It's Friday night or it's a weekend, and then, you don't have enough food on the plate at the table, but you just kind of like get used to it. And you just kind of grow with it, but also be grateful and say, okay, I'm thankful with what I had. And I left my parents' house when I was 15. So being a teacher, and it's very different childhood. It's pretty much like they are so fearful because it's just all that colonial mindset that was left over. Everything is limited, and you got to fight between yourself to make things happen, right? So that fear naturally became generational, because a lot of Indian parents still think that you had to have that status, you had to have the money. And that was the same for me. So my dad was, you got to be a teacher, you got to be an engineer, so you got to have a really high profile so that you can have more money and the status. And that caused like a lot of friction between my dad and myself, because I'm an explorer. I'm a very curious person, and I don't even know like if I had ADHD at that time, because I'm pretty curious about things, switching things over, or even just kind of taking a bike apart, a new one, because I'm curious about it. So I got into a lot of trouble with my dad, and then all those things led me to a different moments later in life, because I stayed curious, but also I learned how to nurture those virtues in a way that helps me and still live in the society, because we're challenged in so many ways in the society how we live. So not having enough versus I'm grateful for what we have, and how that mindset happened is over the last 20-30 years. So it didn't happen overnight, but I can look back to such moments in my life and say, this adverse situation actually helped me to create this value and the foundation for me. Now I see things clear. So going back to my dad being a teacher and getting in trouble all the time, and leaving house like when I was 15, and I was pretty determined. Like I had 3 pairs of clothes in one box, and then my books, and I went to a nearest big city. And literally, I didn't even have the mat. Just sleep on the concrete floor and put your suitcase as your pillow, and you just do what you got to do. But I think that also built a lot of tenacity and perseverance. Like, okay, if I lose everything, like being an entrepreneur myself, if I lose everything, I can do it again. It's not new to me. So the bottom was already there for me all those years ago. So there was nothing that I was afraid of when I was taking risks. So I'm just making that connection for the audience. Okay, that was an adverse situation, and I saw my bottom. It actually helped me to nurture my fear and say, I'm not afraid anymore because I have seen the bottom and I can do it again and again, right? Yeah, or Captain America would say, I can do it all day, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all the little steps, like 15 going out, and then 17 trying to get into university, and then if any comparativeness with Indian IITs, it's 0.5% applicants get through. So if you really want to do engineering, it just kind of practice. And I think that tendency still see it. So maybe it's just because of the population or the mindset. Like there's no concept of being patient. I want something, so I'm going to get it. So you see this like at the airports, or at the cafes, or even when you're paying the telephone bills in India, you queue up, but there's always that 1 or 2 people just go around, get that job done, and you're kind of waiting in the line. And I'm like, well, what just happened here? I've been like, being patient, and I'm in the line. And I think that again, a belief on its own, like, I want this, and this is the only way to get it done. And that kind of creates that comparativeness, like, getting through the engineering college, where the acceptance rate is like 0.5%, you become very comparative. You want to stand out. And later on, that skill set came in handy was when I was learning, computer science, when I'm learning marketing, or when I'm learning about entrepreneurship. Like, my bar was set so high, like, because I know it can be comparative, and by becoming comparative, you can be in the top league.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true there. So you made it through. You came to UK, which is obviously where I'm from, to do the study. You studied computer science in the UK then, did you?
Yeah, I came for a master's, and then I kind of discontinued at postgrad after 2 semesters because I already have the job and I already have the work permit. Like, all I was looking for this license to stay longer and find a job, find a career. And then once I had my job, and I was like, why am I paying all the £6,000 to get that certificate? I mean, I like school, but I always kind of self-learner. And I also know that schools are limited in terms of what they teach. It's just a job they're teaching you something. And all my experience and my career is based on what I learned in my past 5 years working for different companies. There were only 2. But I used that money to learn myself. I did SEMA just to understand the business and the economics of it. Again, I haven't completed that, but I wanted to learn about economics, managerial accounting, financial accounting, and how the economics work, and how do you set up a business, all those things. So I think I always had that mindset of I want to be either a CEO or run my own business all along. So it's kind of like picking and choosing what I need to learn, and just kind of keep progressing in the IT and technology world, but also use those business skills. And that eventually helped me to start my own advertising agency in Canada.
Oh, so basically, you saved some money in the UK, then you went on to Canada and start the agency, or is that how?
That's correct. And I was waiting for my, if anybody knows about UK immigration system, it's one of the most ruthless. You just
Oh,
think you
it's
get like
terrible.
1 year. And I was
Yeah,
fed up, like after 5 years with all the skill sets and job. And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, there's
child
so many
labor.
there's requirements, and it's like impossible. It's almost like it's just impossible to
Yeah,
kind
like,
of juggle all those things they need all together in those timescales, isn't it, really? And it takes so long.
yeah, it took so long. And, 2007, I went to India to see my son. He was 6 months old.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and then, the job, I kind of told him I'm not coming back. So it's kind of burned the
Oh,
bridges. I made the amendments
yeah.
later and we all got connected. But that whole situation about getting reapplied for visas and keeping on
Yeah.
going. These guys actually sponsored me for visa. I had visa until 2012, but I left in 2008. Just
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of, I had enough, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And going to Canada was, I had the job, I had the permanent residency right away.
Yeah.
So it's
They're a
kind
little
of
bit
like,
more immigrant friendly in that sense, where they can set you up for things
yeah, like it's more
reasonable.
welcoming, right?
One
Like,
more welcoming, that's it, yeah.
yeah, you have all the skill set, you have the talent, but you keep, you know, putting that standards differently and moving that goalpost every single time you go through this process.
Yeah.
Of course, this is where you have your own self-respect and protect your individuality and say, hey, I'm done here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Right?
And plus it costs thousands of pounds as well. That are just
Yeah,
draining out.
I actually worked for Southwest Trains part-time,
Yeah.
and that was during my like morning routine, go and do the work and then go to college. And it worked out well.
Mm.
It paid the bills and the cheap transit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, so all right, well we won't go down that road too much because we'll be divulging too much there. But so okay, so you're in Canada now, you started your marketing company, so that's your first step into taking a risk into entrepreneurship, obviously. Marketing seemed to be your thing before you got there, or I mean, because obviously now you're a coach as well, so we can go into that in a minute, but
Yeah, it was excuse me, I work for Definity, which is part of Carrot Media Group, and Carrot Media and Ages, like the all agency conglomerate like WPP or anybody else. So when I was working as a programmer, what I was programming is basically the tools that allows to track the marketing effectiveness and implementing the strategy at the programmatic level.
so like
So
AI, it's not like AI or anything like that, is
AI
it?
wasn't there at the time. It's
Oh,
more like,
okay.
sequence of steps to really say,
Okay.
okay, good or bad, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
This is going back like 2004, 2005.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
And I learned so much so fast and I loved it. And I'm like, and marketing technologist positions are really rare because somebody with a programming background, but also no marketing. And then eventually I learned entrepreneurship. Like when I started my agency, I never had a business, but I had strong background in marketing and programming. So how do I use my skills? I think coming from England to Canada, it certainly had an advantage because most of the technologies are like 3 or 4 years ahead in bigger cities like San Francisco or London or New York, because that's where they originate and then they go down the pipeline to other cities and other places. So I had that advantage. And then I was working for this company, and then a year and a half later, they were acquired by some other agency. So I have been, that was the second time where the agency was merged or acquired by some other company. And everybody knows when these mergers happen, basically they cut down the staff, cut the cost down, and conglomerate the teams. And then I was like, I was 30 years old. I need to do something for myself, because it was the second time the owners or the founders making millions of dollars, but I've been the employee forever. And I think I was scared to stop my business at the time, because, I kind of stood up for myself with my parents so many times, like, leaving home or doing engineering or going abroad. So what if I don't succeed? What if my business didn't go well? So I was scared. And I think I was like 30 years old when I started this, and I never really look back from there. I mean, it's not easy. When you start a business, you lack so many other skills like HR, finance, and operations and processes. So I spent good 10 months learning certain skills and really do the market evaluation. So I have a business model that's kind of evolved since then. So it's been 12 years, and then I had 2 other companies in between. So it's enjoyable, but also I think all the framework goes back to my childhood, having that perseverance, having that determination to succeed. And no matter what the odds are, I'm going to try and give my best.
Yeah, so on that theme now, that where you got that, most people do have it from a conditioning of what the childhood can make or break in that sense, but obviously it made you in the sense that it developed your mindset, and now you have this mindset coaching business called Monk Mindset. Great name, by the way. I like that. Basically, how did that evolve then? Did you sort of see that you had those traits yourself and you could share it with other people from your own experience, or?
It's interesting how that all evolved. Even though I've been an entrepreneur, I see myself as a truth seeker and a teacher for some of my friends and family members. And they always reach out to me. I mean, I grew up in a household where you can do astrology and palm reading, these kind of things, but kind of very traditional South Indian family. So there were always people, this, like, can you help me out? And that eventually led me to, know about myself, but also with the business mindset, I learned so many things that are in our personal lives that can really make or break things, but also there are ways how you can make it happen. So with the whole MindsetMonk, with ROI MediaWorks and my other companies, and I co-authored 3 books. They're all Amazon bestsellers. And then I became an executive producer in documentaries. I felt like I have a calling to inspire people and empower people through different mediums. And then books and documentaries are one thing, but the teachings are always there. And, I get Instagram messages and people reach out to me like, I'm going through this situation. Most of these are like midlife crisis. I went through a divorce in 2017 and I'm quite vulnerable, and I put out my life like quite authentically. So when people see that rawness, they say, hey, I'm going through a similar situation. Can you help me out? And then I was like, okay, like, why don't I create a brand around this? I mean, being a marketer. And of course, I have a nonprofit. It's called Hope for 1 Million Kids Foundation. So I need to have a funding vehicle for this nonprofit foundation. So whatever that funds rise through MindsetMonk and coaching, basically it's going to Hope for 1 Million Kids Foundation, which is helping kids that are in need and going through the same poverty and life cycles. So again, it's something new. You can learn so many things, but it's all unique to you. But I did a lot of courses with people like Jack Canfield and Jay Abraham, and I love Deepak Chopra and Robin Sharma. So there was a lot of reading in terms of making sense of what it is that I'm passionate about and what I love about, and how do you create like a job around that. And it's not easy or straightforward because, you're not a qualified counselor or, those degrees. You don't have those degrees, but like a lot of people don't even know like that I do Reiki and whatnot. I don't discuss myself that way, but it's just kind of very natural to me. And I think when I start seeing people naturally approaching, I was like, I should help more people. And I think this is pre-COVID too. I kind of pretty much acted into it because my company was pretty much self-driven, and I have the teams, and it's kind of I just delegate it, and I don't have to do a lot of work. But now after COVID, things are a little different, so I'm kind of back into ROI Media Works and just kind of setting that stage again, so I can just continue the coaching.
Yeah. Wow. Well, tell us a bit more about your coaching business and how people can find it and find out more about your books and coaching business.
Yeah, they're all on my website, lakkineni.com, LAKKINENI.com, or my Instagram, and all my social media handles are at VK Lakkinen, LAKKINENI. There are books there and different processes that I've been part of. And if anybody wants to help out kids, they can always reach out, or even just for mindset coaching.
Excellent. Well, VK, it's really been a great journey. Sitting down and listening to your journey yourself, it's been a great experience there, listening to your story. Thanks for sharing it with my audience today. And do you have any last words you could say to my audience before you go, or anything that
yeah, sure, I can share something. I think we're definitely living in a very fragmented world and very opinionated world than ever. But I think just by being kind and compassionate with what you believe in, but also kind of allow other people to express their opinion, is the key to build those communities. And I think let's not forget about being kind and compassionate with everybody.
Great stuff. Well, VK Lakkinen, great, as I said, great experience you got there to share with my audience today, and thanks a lot for coming to share that with my audience today.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me on your show.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.